Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of We're Watching Star Trek, the original series. Today, we are going to cover Season 1, Episode 7, Miri, which aired originally on October 27th, 1966. As always, I am Brandon Fott, and he is back with us again. We've got Paul Crowder.
Yo, what's up, people? I missed you.
Woo.
It's been a while. My bad. Technical issues, you know how it is, life. But I'm ready. Let's talk about it.
And we've also got Dan here.
How's it going, guys?
And we're just going to go ahead and jump right into this one. This episode opens on the bridge of the Enterprise, as many do, with Kirk saying that they are receiving an Earth-style SOS signal, and Spock confirms that it is a ground signal not coming from a vessel. So Kirk explains that they're hundreds of light years from Earth and that there's no colonies or vessels that are out that far, so they can't quite figure out what's going on there. Spock starts rattling off the characteristics of the planet that they're approaching, that the signal's coming from. And he goes over the circumference and the mass and the mean density in the atmosphere and says that they're all similar to Earth's. Yeoman Rand, Janice, exclaims that it is Earth as they get closer. But Kirk says, that's not the Earth, but that's another Earth. And I did actually look up the characteristics of, our real Earth, and the numbers are slightly different from what Spock is reading off there. And I'm not sure if it's if they did that on purpose, or maybe just we found more accurate ways of measuring things since, the show was filmed, but they're not super far off. So it's not, a big deal.
When I saw that, I thought, oh, look, the multiverse. Literally.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be something like a copy of us or a copy of everything on our Earth. I don't know why I thought that immediately. That's kind of what I was looking at.
The screen in the background of the Earth, you could actually see the continents,
right,
that look like our continents.
Yeah, it's just basically Earth.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be literally they went it'd be like a time travel thing or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect going into that, but there was a lot that that I feel like they could have done.
Yep.
So we get a captain's log after the commercial break. Kirk just recaps, that they found a duplicate Earth, which this show really loves their duplicates lately, like in this first season. But the Enterprise is orbiting the duplicate Earth while Kirk confirms that, they still haven't gotten a response to their signals that they've sent to the planet. And he decides that they're going to beam down a landing party near the vicinity of the distress signal that they're receiving. So they just they beam down 6 people, and they kind of land in this street where the buildings are all run down, and there's broken down cars, and just trash laying everywhere. And immediately, okay, so I'm like, okay, 6 people, 2 of these guys we don't know, and they've got red shirts, so they're fucked. But then I was like, why is Janice there? Of all the people that you can bring with you, Sulu's good with a rapier, but they brought Janice.
Dude, it's funny you mention that because I was like, I thought what Janice, I was like, oh, she's the only female. But I thought, wait, what is she even doing there? She's not a security team. She can't fight. It's they knew they were going to be talking to kids or something. They knew someone. I'm not sure.
And does she even carry a phaser?
Maybe she just needed to get off the ship.
I don't think.
Yeah, she's like, hey, take me with you on this one. I've been on this ship for quite a while.
Yeah, it's funny because she don't have no phaser. I don't think she has anything with her. No equipment, nothing.
Yeah. So they start walking around and just checking stuff out. And Kirk is like, hey, you 2 unnamed crew members, why don't one of you go this way and then one of you will go this way, and then the 4 of us will stay together, but you guys separate from everybody else. And this is again where I'm like,
I knew
they're gonna die.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna die immediately because I was like, oh yeah, look, they're here. I've never seen the faces before. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna die.
But I'm like, look, you have a group of 6 people. Why don't you split into 3 groups of 2 or 2 groups of 3? But he's like, no, you 2 go off on your own, not together, completely separate, and then the 4 of us will stay together.
It's almost like the Scooby-Doo rules. Oh, hey, the people that are brave are going to stick together, but the 2 cowards, go off the other way.
Yeah, these 2 unnamed guys, you guys just go explore stuff on your own. We don't know anything about where we are. Everything's obviously dilapidated and destroyed, but no, you guys go. But Kirk looks around and says, he's like, yeah, this looks just like Earth from the early 1900s. And Spock is like, well, you'd actually, because he's running a scanner, and he's like, well, it's more like Earth from, around 1960. And Janice asks where everybody is, which obviously they don't know. And Spock's like, well, there's some natural deterioration here. It looks like it's been happening for several centuries, and he thinks that the distress signal was automated. Elsewhere, we get a quick shot of one of the unnamed crewmen. He kind of walks like past this door, this open door, and then just as he gets by it, the door closes. So obviously, somebody or something is alive in this place.
And not a very good security guard since he didn't hear the door shut.
Yeah, I thought that too, but maybe he's just like bopping around, like along with his headphones in, just like listening to some slamming track, and he's just, he doesn't really care. He knows he's screwed.
He's like, I know what happens to the no names on these missions.
Yeah, he's like, we didn't even get an introduction. I'm screwed. But the main crew, they just keep looking around, and Kirk finds an old tricycle, and he picks it up, and for some reason he hands it to Spock, who then just passes it to McCoy. Like Spock's like, what is this shit? Like, I don't want this thing. And he just hands it off to McCoy.
Don't hand me your garbage.
Yeah, like why did he even pick that up for starters? He's just like, here, Spock, look at this useless thing I found, and just gives it to him. And Spock's like, okay, great. Just hands it to Bones, and he looks at it and he sets it down. And then suddenly somebody starts shouting, "Mine!" Like that's mine. Like the seagulls from what is that Finding Nemo? That's from.
No, not Finding Nemo. No, that's the penguins, right? It's the penguins, I thought, right?
I thought the mine thing was seagulls.
Seagulls? I don't know. It's one of those cartoon kid shows. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, this guy starts screaming mine and just rushes Bones, and he tackles him. So Spock and Kirk come in and they pull the guy off of him, and Kirk just starts punching him in the face, but knocks him down, but he gets back up and comes at him again, and Kirk punches him again. They do this like 3 times before finally the dude's just like, fine, he's down for the count. And I'm like, why didn't Spock just like Vulcan grip this dude?
Yeah,
like he's got this.
I don't think he wanted to touch him. He's like, ugh.
Yeah, he's got this ability to just like drop people with like a pinch, and he's like, I'm just gonna watch Kirk beat the hell out of this guy. Like Spock just has this kind of sadistic side where he just likes to watch people get beat up.
Yeah.
Well, he's like, damn, look at his face. I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
For a minute, I actually thought they were gonna do like a zombie episode. I'm like, don't let him bite ya.
Yeah.
The most interesting thing about that part actually is when they gave the tricycle to Bones. He stared at it in a way that he didn't understand what it was. It's super subtle if you notice. Like he hands him it, he looks at it. It's like in curiosity. He looks at it very curious, and then kind of hits the wheel and it spins around. And it's like
well, maybe in the 31st century they don't have toys like that.
Yeah, if you kind of look at his face, like he truly was like curious about what is this object and whatever. And that's when I realized, oh crap. I guess I really think about what they didn't have on Earth back then, like tricycles and bicycles. I'm assuming that they'll forget about that or whatever. So I don't know. It's just interesting to me. This is a small detail.
Yeah, that's a good point. I looked at it more as like he looked at it with a more like what the hell happened here kind of thing. But yeah, I guess it is totally plausible as well that maybe they have like hover bikes or something by now.
Yeah, so they don't even. It's part of history.
They just don't do that.
Yeah, part of history just got erased. I don't know. It stuck with me.
So this dude that attacks him, he's got like some really weird colored blonde hair, like long blonde hair, and he's got like purple burned looking skin. And he lays down near the broken tricycle, and he's just like crying like a little kid, that it's broken, and he's asking them to fix it. And Bones is like, yeah, we'll fix it. And Spock says, he appears to be some type of humanoid, which like no shit. Like he's obviously like human shaped, that's
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Kirk's like, well, he's got some kind of like, he's got like the mind of a child. And then the dude starts gasping for air, and McCoy says that he's having some kind of seizure. So Kirk tells him, he's like, calm down. We just, we want to help you out. And the dude's like, well, he starts yelling at him, calling Kirk a liar. And, he just starts shouting never over and over. And then he just dies right there in front of him. And like the second he dies, Bones like, I got to scan this dude, and just like goes over and starts scanning him. And he's like, yep, he's dead. And he says that the guy's metabolic rate is impossibly high, and that it seems that he aged a century in just the past few minutes. So they hear some footsteps behind them, and then they all just start running towards them because why not? And they get joined by the 2 security guys who are so far okay. So then, as they're running, then they hear a door creak, the other side behind them. And then they all just start running to the door, and they open it, and they just go into the building, which like, it's really weird. At this point, they're just like running at every little sound, which is just like, it just visually looks weird.
It's the moment where I do my thing. what the hell is going on with you chasing sounds for no reason? You are a group of military style explorers. The idiocracy of chasing after sounds with no plan, no formation, no nothing is by far the most stupidest thing of I've seen so far in this episode.
Yeah, they're all like just a dog.
I guess it's better than them running away.
Oh, look, was that a sound? Let's all run that way. Like, run together or whatever. And then why is Janice there still? She's there with no weapon or nothing. She's literally running in the middle of people just to be running there. Like,
yeah, and they clearly don't even want her there because they didn't pass with the tricycle. So she didn't even get a turn with it. So they go inside the building, and Spock, starts scanning something, and he's like, "Oh, this thing looks like it's about 300 years old," which it was hard to tell what it was, but it just looked like a piano. So I don't know if he's never seen, a piano or.
I thought it was a piano also.
Yeah, but they hear like a thump in another room, and then finally they all draw their phasers and they like stack up against the door. And Kirk yells, he's like, "Hey, whoever's in there, you need to come out. We're not going to hurt you." But he doesn't get a response, and he just swings the door open, and he sees a little girl inside that's crying, and she's like, "Hey, don't hurt me, please." And Kirk says they're not going to. They only want to talk. So he goes in and he kind of pulls her out of the room and tells Spock to take the guards and go outside and do some more readings on stuff. So outside, Spock and his guards, they separate again, which is like the super smart thing to do. And Spock's machine, which is actually a tricorder, and I know that because of the subtitles, his tricorder starts going off. So we see somebody, he starts like walking towards a window or a door, and you see from the inside somebody's like cleaning that off and watching him, and he heads that direction because that's the direction that his tricorder is telling him to go. So back at the girl and the rest of the crew, she's talking about how she remembers the things that the Grups did, which was like burning and things and yelling at people and hurting people. And Kirk is like, "Well, we didn't do anything like that. We're here to help." So he asks her where everybody else is. And she says that she thinks that they're playing some kind of game with her and that she wants to know the rules. And she uses like a bunch of weird words like "foolie" and just weird stuff like that. And they don't know any of the words either. And Janice somehow puts it together that Grups mean grown-ups. So, hey, she did do something.
That's why they brought her along.
Yep, just for that moment right there. They're like, you are really good at making nonsense words make sense. So we're just going to bring you with us. But Kirk asks about the Grups doing bad things. And, she says that, it happened when they started to get sick in the before time. And she says that the kids all hid and then the Grups were gone. So McCoy asks, if the reason the Grups weren't around is because they all got sick. And she's like, yeah, they got sick and they started to die. And McCoy starts thinking that it's some kind of plague. And I was like, oh, geez, like, are they going to end up with like another virus episode? The girl confirms that there are more kids hidden in the area. And Kirk is like, hey, what's your name? And she says her name is Miri. And Kirk is like, hey, you're very pretty. And, she seems super happy about it. But boy, was this scene just weird.
Okay, yeah, this is when I...
kind of uncomfortable to watch.
Okay. Like, this is from this moment right here, bro. I gotta say, this episode is so pettyish, that like pedophilish, that I like. I maybe that's why I felt so uncomfortable watching the episode, because like from this moment on, like my level of enjoying this episode was like, I don't know, a 2, and I couldn't get it past. I couldn't enjoy it anymore. It's like I was forcing myself to sit through it because every scene with her and them together made me feel uncomfortable. Like I know I'm supposed to know it's a TV show, and I get it here and there. And actually, other things that didn't bother me. I just know that at this particular moment, I could not get over that.
I just wonder if like maybe it's just a time period thing, like in the 60s, that didn't seem so weird, and that because just the things that we've been exposed to like in media and all this stuff now, like it just seems worse than it actually is. Like maybe it is more innocent or was more innocent back then, and just now we kind of look at it with a different lens. But yeah, man, that was really weird.
Well, then she was like, oh, she later on, like I hate to jump ahead of myself. She's like, oh, well, she's 300 years old. Like because the whole agent thing. And I thought, okay, cool, but that's like people using justification. Oh, she looks 18 though, like
Yeah.
like one of those things like that. So like this whole episode, I kept getting more and more and more uncomfortable with their scenes together. I don't know. It was just something about it. It just.
I think from their point of view, when the show was being made, it was during a simpler time, more innocent time. But for headcanon, they try to make it not so awkward. I'm like, maybe this virus just makes them act out of the norm. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that you're right that it was a more innocent time, and we're probably reading a bit too much into it, and maybe like the acting kind of makes it seem that way, and maybe he was meant to just so maybe he's supposed to just trying to be nice to her to kind of win her over onto their side and help him out or whatever. But man, it came off a little not great for the current time period.
It doesn't help that we all know Kirk is a ladies' man, so
yeah, he does have that
exactly.
reputation.
It was like his reputation as a ladies' man. Like she's a lady in quotations. Like all this stuff. Like it just, I don't know. It started going the way that I felt uncomfortable, and I put that in my notes. I'm like, felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So we keep going.
Well, it's not a good sign that the three of us all felt uncomfortable during this episode.
Yeah.
But outside, Spock and his guards are investigating an alley when something gets thrown off the roof and down a fire escape. So they all, press themselves up against the building to take cover, and Spock starts climbing the fire escape to go up and see what's going on. And then he just starts hearing some children singing, that nah, I'm not even going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just, anyway, he hears the, the kids singing, and then he jumps off the fire escape, and then someone starts throwing a lot of stuff off the roof at them. And so they take cover, and the children start singing like faster and faster. So they're like, screw this. And they go and meet up with Kirk and his crew. And Spock tells Kirk that, they couldn't get close to the kids without them running away. So Kirk, explains basically everything he learned, that all the adults are dead. And McCoy points out that, the one that attacked them wasn't a child. And Kirk kind of muses that, there has to be records somewhere to answer some of their questions. Like, hey, somebody has to have recorded what happened here. So he asks Miri if she knows if there are any buildings where doctors used to work. And she's like, yeah, but that's a really bad place. And Kirk's like, yeah, that's fine. Just go ahead and take us there anyway. And she's like, okay. So she asks his name, and he introduces himself as Jim. So he's getting casual with it. She says that she likes his name, and he's like, yeah, I like your name too, and I like you. And I was like, oh, this has got to stop. Like they can't keep doing this. But she's like, oh, you're really nice, and you're different from the other Grups. And then he like kind of gently grabs her chin, and she notices a spot on his hand that looks like it's got like disease, like really bad disease. And she says that, what happened to the other Grups is starting to happen to him, and that it's going to spread all over him, and he's going to start yelling and try to hurt everybody, and then he's just going to die. So it turns out, yes, they can get the virus, and yes, it is another virus episode.
He's like, no, it's just syphilis. It's okay.
He's like, yeah, I've always had this. You don't understand. But we get another commercial break, and we come back to another captain's log, and Kirk explains through the log that the building they went to housed the device that was putting out the automatic transmission that they found. And he says that the blue spot that he has is now on everybody except for Spock. Spock, again, being the superior being in the show.
And he likes to joke about it.
Yeah, why not?
He did him and Bones do that a lot. Where he cracks on Bones for being a human all the time. And then, like, it's just the way I like the way they do that. I don't know. I find
they have a really good relationship.
It's good back and forth banter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he continues to explain that there was a laboratory in the building where they were heading, and that McCoy is using some tissue samples from each of the crew to see if he can isolate the organism that's responsible for the virus that they have. Which I don't know about you guys, but like he said that they have a blue spot, and the coloration to me made it look purple. Like maybe it was just my monitor or something, but it looked more purple to me than blue.
It looked bluish.
I was showing up more. I was kind of showing up bluish purple on my TV.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe my colors need corrected on my monitor.
My only issue from this episode, like it's about from this point on or whatever, is like it's so dialogue heavy and so scientific and so and they all sound really smart with what they're saying, but it's not an interesting talk.
No.
Like I like the way they were talking to each other. Like they're using a lot of big words that I apparently I understand because I do from watching other things of science, nature, or whatever. But it's like it's such an uninteresting thing unless I'm going to break down, oxidation or all this other stuff I want to break down and whatever. It's like I don't know. It just seems like it's a lot of talk, smart words coming up.
So McCoy says that it's a zoo of bacteria is what he's looking at, and he calls the Enterprise for some more equipment. And Kirk tells them, hey, don't beam anybody else down here because we don't want anyone else getting sick. And then once again, Dan, he does our favorite thing and just hangs up on whoever he's talking to and does not give them any time to respond to anything. Like that seems to be his calling card.
If he were to stop doing it, you'd want to question what's going on at this point.
Yeah. It's not Kirk if he doesn't just hang up on you.
Well, he's so used to hanging up on all his bitches that he's like, I'm just going to hang up on everyone.
Yeah, everybody on the ship is his bitch. He's the captain. But Kirk asks McCoy why he thinks Spock has no symptoms, and McCoy, jokes that maybe the virus doesn't have an appetite for green blood, and Spock's like, well, being a red-blooded human obviously has its disadvantages, and I know it's like a joke, but, I mean, he ain't wrong. He generally just doesn't have any of these issues that they have.
He's like, you humans are inferior.
It's pretty much the most real thing you said this whole season to me.
Yeah.
He's like a disadvantage. I was like, oh, you're kind of right. You do seem to be having better off than us.
Yeah. But Spock starts talking about the equipment that McCoy is using and, how old that stuff is. And Spock gets annoyed and he's like, well, it's enough that it works. So McCoy notices that the spots have spread onto his hands. And Miri says that when you're old, it covers you, just like anything. So basically super quick, which is a real, just kind of backhanded, hey, Bones, you're old.
Like, you're going to die first.
Yeah, I mean, he might. But Kirk finds a report on a life prolongation project, which really could have used a better name. And, they comment about how, obviously they didn't have any luck with that thing, with that whole program. But we get another captain's log, kind of not mid-scene, but just without a commercial, which is really weird. And McCoy's equipment has been beamed down, so they're using it along with the ship's computer banks to try to find the cure for the virus. Spock's talking to Kirk about, how it's been 300 years and only the children are alive, but, children become adults. So how is that whole thing working? And Kirk's like, well, yeah, they did up until now, which is weird because he just kind of brushes that off. Like, that's a really good question. If, it's been 300 years and all the adults are dead, how the hell are there still kids? And Kirk just seems pretty uninterested in that.
He's like, I'm not worried about it.
I see same thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because the premise of this show, like the whole virus and kids, actually is the premise of an entire show that I know called Jericho.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, there's a show called Jericho, and literally when you everybody over the age of puberty gets a disease and dies, and so it's literally people going around with kids, the younger people going around and redoing the earth. It all goes into shambles or whatever.
That's interesting. I wonder if this episode was part of an inspiration or something.
Inspiration for it. I have no idea. This is it's like a 90s show.
Huh.
So yeah, once I saw this, I thought, oh man, I wonder if that's the reason how to get the idea for it.
Yeah, that's actually, I bet it is. I mean, if so, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Spock goes to McCoy and asks him about, glandular changes during puberty. And McCoy asks, he's like, why are you asking me about that? Which, I mean, at this point, why even question Spock? The dude's right 99% of the time.
I mean, he's a walking computer, honestly.
Right. Why are you asking? None of your business, dude. Just answer the question. But he asks, Spock asks if it's possible that the children get the virus as they enter puberty. And Kirk is like, well, that doesn't explain why there aren't any adults. And McCoy is like, well, there's, that's true, but I think he's onto something. So again, just answer his question. And Spock's like, well, it's illogical that there have been no adults here for 300 years, but there are kids. And Kirk's like, well, they die during adolescence. And McCoy asks, how do you keep the line going? So basically, how are there more kids?
Exactly.
And Janice is talking to Miri and asks why, why would you want to stay with us if you've, basically, or never mind. She's not talking to Miri. She asks why Miri would want to stay with them if she's basically been kind of like a wild animal since she was a little kid. And Kirk is like, well, maybe she's lonely or curious, and maybe she just has that need for structure. And Spock's like, well, maybe there are other emotions, in her case. And McCoy's like, well, hey, Kirk, Miri really likes you. And Spock's like, yeah, she's becoming a woman. And Kirk gives this kind of like this face that's kind of like, oh shit, like he didn't realize it. He's like, oh man, I thought it was like grooming a child, and it turns out she's about to, be an adult.
Yeah, he's not helping.
See, I think like I get it. I get the naivety of it all. I understand. At the same time, I'm like, this episode is still uncomfortable, bro.
It's still
like,
weird.
You didn't read the signs. Like it's okay for little girls to, I got a crush on him. Da, da, da. But it's just the way you approached it, bro. You made it look like you were trying to holler at her.
Yeah.
Like,
Kirk can't help it that he's just too good looking.
Oh, I see. Okay, so another thing, in this show, they film a lot of the one-offs. That's like when it's the one person on screen by themselves. Well, like this lighting that makes like Kurt look dreamy.
Yeah.
Like the kind of lighting they do this lighting where they're like half his face and the other light is in the dark. It's like this dream effect or whatever. And like makes him look all like sparkly, like they're literally like adding like sparkles and glitters to when he when on the screen or something. Like when he comes on screen, I swear they do, bro.
They're like,
I swear
it's time for Shatner to film his scene. Somebody get the bag of sparkles ready.
Dude, I swear. Also, next time he's in a scene, watch how the lighting comes. It comes from left to right. And it comes at an angle, the light's part of his face, and the other side is in the dark. It does it all. They do it all the time when they show this watch.
Hold on, Paul. He just had that effect. No matter where he goes, the lighting is just bending to his good looks.
Yeah, that's just William Shatner. That's not Kirk. That's just Shatner.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like,
if I start to notice this and it ruins this show for me, I'm going to be very upset.
I'm telling you right now, every time it's the lighting from left to right, and it's like, I'm telling you, this way.
You're getting the better night, Paul.
I'll point it out. Yeah, whatever.
So Spock gets a call from the Enterprise, and they give him some figures on their research, and Spock tells the crew that he's got his calculations, and Kirk is talking to Miri, and he's like, hey, why don't you go clean up this desk over here where we were working? And she's like, oh yeah, no problem, which is really weird, but like I understand he wants to kind of get her away from the conversation. So Spock says that according to the life prolongation plan, what they thought they were accomplishing was that a person would age only 1 month for every 100 years. And he says that there was a miscalculation that wiped out the adults and that the children could be, immensely old. But I feel like if they were, hundreds of years old, like would they still be mentally children? Like wouldn't they have like mentally grown at that point?
Oh. Okay, another part about this damn show that annoyed me is, let's say right now, let's use right now for instance, we kill everybody, what's 12 and under, right? Or everybody, kill everybody 12 and older. There's some smart kids out there that are from 11 to young, like geniuses out there that are considered geniuses at 10, 11, 9. Like this doesn't seem plausible.
Yeah,
to me.
Well, kids are pretty resilient. They can figure shit out pretty easily and take care of themselves at a young age.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, even if, so on this earth, I'm assuming there are millions of kids. And then, so there's no way that this happened. Like, it just doesn't seem plausible to me. And this one I thought, wow, I guess I never considered how smart kids are.
Yeah, and like generally I'm willing to suspend disbelief for stuff like that and like stuff like this and just say, okay, they were physically and mentally kids this whole time. But I think I've come to expect better from this show where they normally cover stuff like that pretty well, I think.
Yeah. Like the kids were so, like think about it. Here's the moment where you realize they've all only aged 3 months or 3 months, right? In the 300 years. Okay, right? Which means that she's 12 or 11, whatever. And however old she is right now, I'll go with 12. And this 12-year-old's an idiot and doesn't understand any English. Because I think about it. All this time she doesn't, why is she even talking like this?
Yeah.
Like her talk should be normal, but
even if you're aging up slowly, your experiences and, having to take care of yourself would make you mature mentally.
Right.
Even if you weren't ready.
Yeah, if anything, they would have matured faster having no adults around to take care of them.
Thank you. And that's when I thought that if she came out like an adult, this whole time instead of a kid, I would have changed my view of feeling uncomfortable about the show.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't feel so uncomfortable or whatever. But she really truly seems like a kid to hold like a kid and a kid instead of a person who was like 12 and stopped aging.
Yeah, and that's one of those things where we just again have to like just suspend disbelief, because if she came out all mature, then we wouldn't even have an episode here. So like I get it, but yeah, just a kind of minor nitpick on my end, and apparently everybody else's.
Yeah.
So,
No. It's a major thing. It's major for me. I just could reference because it's a reference for me personally because there's in our life right now. There's a TV show about a chick who looks like she's 10, but she's like 27.
yeah,
But she hasn't aged since she was 10 years old. It's like so like this whole thing right here is kind of funny with the whole way they made her not mature or whatever. I find it I don't know. I find it I don't know just very not thoughtful for a show that's really smart on facts.
right. Yeah, that's where I am too. But Janice says that, hey, being a child with no responsibilities for an eternity sounds like a pretty great thing. And McCoy's like, well, until you find out that puberty means a death sentence, basically. And so they have this quick discussion about whether or not they think Mira knows, and decide that no, she doesn't, because she doesn't know anything. And Kirk is like, well, I think we should try to get to the other kids, and we're going to go ask Miri for help. And he like holds her hand as they leave, and I'm just like, ugh. Like, okay, so at this point, I'm like, okay, like he obviously, now he knows that she likes him, so he's just kind of using her for what he wants, just kind of playing along with it, but it still feels weird. And elsewhere, the other kids are deciding what to do about Kirk and his crew, and they decide that they are going to take the crew's communicators to stop them from contacting the Enterprise. And I recognized, like, they have kind of like a lead kid here, and I recognize this dude instantly. And he's obviously much younger here, but he still looked exactly the same as he aged. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movies Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone, and then also the movie Scrooged. But he was in both of those. So
Yeah, I know he's in Scrooge. Yeah, I know he's in Scrooge. I can remember that part.
yeah.
But I don't remember him being in Tango and Cash.
In Tango and Cash, he was the inventor guy that gives them the badass truck that they use at the end. He's
okay.
Yeah, that's this dude. Like, that was where I first recognized him, and I was like, huh.
Yeah, he's a bunch older now. I know him as older. I don't know him as anything else. So.
Yeah. But Miri leads Kirk to where the kids are, and the kids all hide as they approach. And Kirk opens the door, and when he steps in, a Grupp, which is, another adult person, shows up, and all the kids start running from their hiding places and just like screaming, just, trying to get away. So the Grupp jumps on Kirk's back, and he throws her off, and then he shoots her with his phaser. And I noticed that we had a blue phaser color instead of red, and we had a different sound on this one, which I really liked the blue effect, but I did not like this new sound.
I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah, and
I didn't either.
I don't know if like he had it set on like a different mode, because we've seen it disintegrate people, and I'm pretty sure we've seen it just stun people. So I don't know. We'll just have to see in the upcoming episodes when they use those if that's going to be like a permanent
maybe
change.
stun is maybe blue means stun from now on and red mean kill.
Yeah,
I thought about it halfway through the show.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. If they had to have a way to differentiate the two. So he kneels down to check on the Grupp, and he says that he's like, I don't understand why she died, because my phaser wasn't set to kill. So there's that. And then for some reason I thought, here, is there any way I need to look see if there's any way I can buy a phaser like prop just to have in my computer room, just decoration.
You can get anything Star Trek, man.
Yeah,
you can put anything you want. The whole clothes, everything, man. They're everywhere.
Yeah, I think I kind of like to have an old school phaser just hanging out. But Miri says that the Grupp's name was Luis, and that Luis was just a little bit older than her, and then she hugs Kirk. And we get like a little time jump here, so it's a little later on, and Kirk and the crew are waiting for the Enterprise to process their data. And Kirk just has Miri sharpening pencils, again, to keep her away from the
very
the
random.
Crew. Yeah, well, he's just like trying to keep her away while they discuss, the important adult stuff. But I saw that thing and I was like, man, fuck that pencil sharpener. I hate those things. Like, we had those in some of the schools I was in.
I was wondering if she was just doing it because she's doing it because she knows how to do it. Well, because she's a kid, remember? They're not pencil sharpeners, so she probably knew that as a kid.
Yeah.
or was she just doing that for fun, or Kurt send her over there?
Well, she sharpens one.
Did they actually say something?
Yeah, she sharpens one, and she's like, "Is this enough?" And he's like, "Well, you better, go ahead and do a few more." So I think he was just trying to keep her away from the crew while they could talk about, everything's going on.
Yeah, I didn't
finding any busy work, just to keep her out of their hair.
Yeah, basically, yeah, just like when he had her clean off the desk earlier.
He's like, clean this shit up. Look how messy it is.
Yeah, he's like, hey, we messed this area up. Go, go do some work. So he's still working on his grooming. Like, just, he doesn't know he is. Spock explains that the notes that he has were from, the last weeks before everything went to hell. And he says that, he knows how much time he has and that he's waiting for the ship's computers to confirm it. Which, why didn't even have a ship computer if they have Spock? But McCoy says that...
He's never wrong.
Yeah, he almost never, yeah. So McCoy says that there's only a matter of time before they go mad and start destroying each other, and, with the last one of them destroying themselves. And Kirk looks at the virus that's spreading on his hand, and he's like, wow, that's... Yeah, he's right. We're eventually going to fight each other, and then the last person's going to end up, somehow killing themselves, which... Who would win in that fight? My money is on Spock on this one.
Yeah. If you were to put rules on a fight between like Spock and Kirk, like a boxing match, Spock every time.
Kirk would beat him down, bro. He ain't got a chance.
No,
this is not a conversation. This is a terrible conversation. Man, Kirk
no.
Are you kidding me? You'll give him that
in a sanctioned fight, hammer? Spock would kick Kirk's ass. But in warfare, since Kirk is so unpredictable and Spock only uses logic, Kirk would win.
See, now that's a fair argument, I think.
Yeah. I think Kurt is just... I like Kurt. I think Kurt will win.
Can we all agree that Janice wouldn't stand a chance?
I don't know. Is she... All she'd have to do to Kirk is, give that little winky face to him, and he'd be like, oh, what was I doing?
Actually, that's another fair point.
Yeah.
And then Bones over there, yeah, he's a smart guy, so he could probably find something around himself to turn into like some kind of chemical warfare thing. But I think I'm still pulling for Spock on this. On just like they're all four of them are in a room and they just start brawling. I think it's gonna be Spock because like literally he just has to grab them all on the shoulder and he wins.
Jim's allergic to peanuts.
Yeah, it's like a peanut launcher.
Spock had the bag on him. He's like, hey, hold on a sec.
He's allergic to peanuts. I got him.
So Kirk asks about Miri, and Spock is like, well, their guess was right, and that she's going to get the disease as she enters puberty, and, she has maybe 5 or 6 weeks by his estimate. And so Kirk's like, well, what about us? And Spock says, well, the older the victim, the more rapid the progress of the virus. So, R.I.P. Bones. And he says that, he is carrying the virus, but that he can't go back to the ship as much as he wants to because, he would spread it to the rest of the crew.
You know what really sucks about this disease for the people coming into adulthood is that puberty itself is just terrible. Then you add like, oh, hey, you're going to die in a couple days on top of that.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're becoming an adult. Also, you're going to die.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So...
You're going to enjoy feeling awkward for 7 days.
Yeah, and then death.
And then death.
McCoy says that, they're soon going to start experiencing the symptoms, which would be like a fever and some fuzzy vision and a pain in their extremities, as well as other symptoms. And then they get a call from the Enterprise that says that they have 170 hours. So they have 7 days to get this figured out, or they are gonzo. And then we go to a commercial. So we come back to a captain's log, and 2 days have passed, and they haven't found any new information on anything. And Kirk and crew are still sorting through the records, and McCoy finds something. So Kirk sends Janice to go on a walk with Miri. He's like, hey, go take her on a walk, like she's a dog. And McCoy says that, only half of the record is intact, but that it says that the idea was to create a string of new diseases in a chain reaction that would extend the life of a human cell immeasurably. So Kirk tells Spock and Bones that they have to recreate the experiment in order to isolate the virus and create a vaccine. And for some reason, like I was just thinking about this, Dan, I bet at this point Kirk is like, shit, I really wish I had taken that android body. Like,
right?
That would have solved all of my problems. So McCoy makes a sarcastic remark, and he's like, "Oh, is that all we have to do? We have 5 days. Just being like a sarcastic, jerk." And suddenly they hear the children singing again. So they do what they always do when they hear a noise, and they just sprint out of the room and into the hallways to look for the kids.
Idiots.
Yeah.
Like really?
Yep.
Oh, I heard a noise out there. Let's all run out there together. I mean, I'll let it go.
Well, singing children should be a red flag to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
In a weird scenario like that, you should be running from children singing.
Yeah, it's just like, beam me up to the ship. As soon as that starts happening, just bring us all back. You're all going to get sick, but we're going to have the equipment that we need to figure this out, or we're all going to die. But I'm not sitting here with this spooky ass singing going on.
At this point in the show, they should have a quarantine room where you can beam them into in case something like this happens.
Yeah, instead of just into the transporter
on
room?
the ship. Yeah. Like, oh, hey, just so you can have some modern technology and, probably the better, people in their right mind to try to help, cure your disease. We're just going to beam you up to a quarantine room and just leave you in there and we'll figure it out for you.
Right. So meanwhile, the leader of the children, as everybody left the room, he sneaks into the research room through a vent and he goes through and steals all their communicators. So when he goes back in the vent, he kind of lets it slam behind him, and the crew hears that from outside the room, and they all go back in, and they're looking around to kind of see what's going on, and Spock pretty much immediately notices that their communicators are gone.
Which I called BS on this part of the episode, because, as we all know, we can't take our communicators anywhere without them on us. So I highly doubt they would have all left theirs on the table like that.
Yeah, especially, if they're waiting from an important call or whatever. One of them is going to probably hold on to theirs, right?
That's how I kind of felt about the situation. Not one, I don't know. I just felt they would have all had them on them at that time.
Right.
My issue with the whole situation was I thought it was very unintelligent. It's like this episode has so many issues with it, with the simple things that just annoy me more and more. Who would all run out the room when they heard the voice?
Right.
Leave all the communicators. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, where were the security guards at this point in the show?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. Where the hell are those guys?
Yeah, your communicator's been in your hip the whole damn episode. Every episode until now, you leave them out sitting out there just for the kids to grab. It'd be if they had to distract them and the kids stuck in there and took them and stole them or something. Well, without them looking, I could have got behind that. That makes a little more sense to me than, once again, I don't know, us just leaving our communicator just sitting out there in the open.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be an issue going forward with these kind of dialogue heavy, very complex problem episodes, is that there's too much room for error for just leaving loopholes and plot holes open, and I can't imagine how difficult it would be to have a scenario this complex and have all of those closed. I guess you have to leave room for more problems to happen so that it increases the suspense or the tension. But yeah, some of it's just kind of dumb like that, just nobody having communicators.
For me,
and again, where are the guards?
I think it's smart. So it's for me. Okay, how to explain this right? So for me, it's not about more problems coming. It's about the way they have come. It's not about the more, because I like the idea of more problems. It's just do them smartly. You are dealing with a space crew of geniuses. Let's be real. Everybody in this show has moments that show they're geniuses, from Bones to Kurt to Spock. Spock is next level, but the other people have always been smart about the way to do everything. This situation right here is what a idiot would do.
Right.
That's what annoys me about it.
Yeah.
It's
if we want to try to find a loophole, we could argue that maybe the virus making them more aggressive is just not making them think clearly.
No, but they did it.
But then why would Spock leave his communicator on the table?
Right.
Thank you.
I guess that throws that theory out the window.
When they heard the sounds earlier, they chased them too. From that moment, I complained about it then. It's every time something's going on with this show, it seems to make me want to believe that these guys are making idiotic choices. And that's not what these guys are about.
Right.
So that's what's so it's like if they make smart choices and they failed, I'd get it. But these are just really stupid things going on. So my bad, ran over.
I
My
guess the
fault.
only thing that
Ran
I
over.
could say in the defense of this specific situation is that they have been on this planet for 2 days and have had no incidents. Like they've just been in this room studying. So maybe they like kind of relaxed and let their guard down because they didn't expect a bunch of kids to lure them out and then steal their shit. But I mean that's really the only way I can defend that. And then again, like Dan had said, where the hell are the guards? Like where are them and where are their communicators? I guess where are they, not where are them. But yeah, you get it.
Yeah, the guards disappeared
Right.
for a good chunk of this episode, honestly.
Yeah. But McCoy states that, with other communicators, they can't use the ship's computers and they don't have a chance at surviving. So we get another captain's log here saying that they have 3 days and 7 hours left. And Kirk notes that the food supply in the area is running low and the children are going to starve in a few months. So additionally, the disease is causing them to be short-tempered with each other. And Kirk and McCoy kind of have this brief argument. And as Kirk walks away, he like bumps into Janice, and for some reason she's just like holding 2 glass beakers like in the middle of the room. And when he bumps into her, she drops them and they shatter on the floor. And then she just starts screaming no and runs out of the room. And Kirk follows behind her. And I feel like I know it was part of the virus thing, but I also feel like Kirk is just like the type of guy that he's like, hey, I'm gonna go like make her drop those because it'll be funny. And he just like goes like it's not even the virus, it's just him being a jerk because he likes to be. He just casually bullies his crew.
Well, maybe that's why she likes him so much.
Yeah, he picks on her because he likes her, and it's one of those grade school things.
The problem with them running out of food, like, do none of these kids know how to fish or hunt? Like, are they that incompetent that they can't do simple hunting and gathering?
Yeah, and we just circle right back to the fact that that problem would be solved if they would have mentally matured in the like 300 years that they've been there.
But even not mentally mature, once again, there are kids out there that hunt and fish and do all that stuff by themselves. It's from that.
So what have they been living on, like green beans for the last 3 centuries or however long it's been?
Right. Yeah, because they didn't explain that all the animals. Why there were no animals? Like if they'd have been like, oh, it also killed the animals or something, I'd be like, oh, okay. So they've been living off MREs.
Well, the planet itself from space looked pretty healthy. Like, the planet's green still. Nothing looked out of the norm.
And I feel like this is one of those circumstances where it's an unnecessary plot point. Like they didn't need the food thing. The stakes were high enough already. Like I get that they wanted to show that if they didn't, solve this problem, the kids would eventually die off anyway from starvation. But it didn't matter because it was only a matter of time before they were going to die from the virus anyway. So like it just seems like an unnecessary plot point to me.
Agreed.
I don't understand why these simple I thought I had nothing to talk about this episode. Like I thought. And my issue with the episode literally is all the issue episodes of what I'm talking about now. Literally, I had so many issues with the episode because of the simple things that just don't make sense to me. Like maybe since it's an older episode, they thought people wouldn't dig that deep into it, But maybe the 60s, they didn't do that. Maybe early time, they didn't do that like that. Me personally, when I watch stuff, I'm like, I look at every detail, and when I see something that's just kind of thrown away, like the small details of, okay, there's kids, but kids can do so many great things. There's no way that this could happen. So like, I kept getting annoyed by everything. And then, they ran out of food now. Why?
Yeah, and then I also wonder, would we have noticed or cared about this if we weren't doing the podcast? Like, do we happen to notice things and we're more willing to scrutinize stuff like that because, we're going to come on here and we're going to talk about it? Like, I feel like this stuff would probably be a little more forgivable, if we weren't doing this.
Nah, not me. I'll be complaining about movies while I'm watching.
Yeah, I like to overanalyze my shows also.
All right, you know what? Screw both of you.
Dude, I'll be watching movies all the time. I almost to my wife the other day. I'm like, why is this like this? That makes no sense. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, look at that right there. That makes no sense. I don't care. I complain about everything. Man.
All right, so we're throwing that theory out the window. But but we are in the hallway with Janice and Kirk, and she's telling Kirk that she's just upset. And then she pulls back the shoulder of her uniform to reveal that the spots of the virus are on her shoulder. So everything's starting to spread.
And Kirk's like, are there any lower?
Yeah. He's you maybe want to pull off the rest of that uniform. But she does confess to Kirk that on the ship, she's like, I was always trying to get you to look at my legs. So apparently she's very proud of her legs. And she's like, hey, look at my legs. And he's like, okay. And when he does, he sees it. She has more splotches from the virus. And then they like kind of hug for a moment. And Miri sees all of this. She's watching like, from behind a doorway, kind of like peeking out.
Oh, she gets jealous.
Yeah. So Kirk is comforting Janice. He says, hey, we're all frightened. And then McCoy yells for them to come back in the room, says that he's found something. So they enter the room, and Bones explains to them that he made a mistake while he was looking at some stuff. And Kirk is just like, hey, I don't care. I just want to know what you found. And he says that he's found the disease and that there's a chance for them. So Kirk turns around and gives, he grabs Janice, and, she kind of gives him one of those, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to make it. Like maybe, maybe we can do something after this. And like, I don't know why, like, it just the look on her face was not like relief. It was like, it was kind of relief, but just like relief that they could just go bone after this.
I mean, when you're about to die, it puts everything into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And they got to keep, well, they don't really have the time to, produce another child to leave on that planet, but, they can try. But Miri sees what Kirk is doing and goes to meet with the other children. She's like, screw this, I'm out. And she convinces them that they need to get Janice away from the group to stop them from finding a cure. And so they form a plan to have one of the kids fake an injury so that Janice will come help. And Mary's like, well, that'll get rid of 2 people because Kirk is going to go looking for her, but he won't be able to find her. So we go to a commercial and come back, and Spock and McCoy are still working on creating a vaccine. And Kirk has a hold of Miri asking where Janice is. So I wonder if they filmed that and they just decided, like, for time, we're not going to show the part where Miri got tricked by this kid.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's kind of it threw me off too.
Yeah, like a significant
it threw me off.
Event.
It took me a second to get myself around. Like, what the hell just happened? I thought, it's a time jump. At the same time, if they did film it, why didn't they show it? Did it come out bad? Or if they showed it originally, but they cut it out.
Yeah,
now.
like we can get 2 minutes of them chasing sounds, but not, a minute of Janice getting tricked and taken captive.
There's a couple cuts in this show, actually, this particular episode, where I feel like there are just random cuts that don't fit.
Yeah.
Like it happened a couple times in the episode where it'll cut to something else real fast, and it's such a time jump or such a weird thing. It comes off weird.
So I wonder if some of the problems that we have, they didn't have during filming, but because they had to condense it to fit it on TV, it kind of like messed with the plot or something a little bit. Like some of the stuff, would not be fixed no matter how much film they shot. But I do wonder if maybe the episode wouldn't have had so many holes if they didn't have to condense it to fit into that hour time slot.
Not sure at all. I just know it's just very, very weird, a couple of these parts.
Yeah. So Miri says that she doesn't know where Janice is, and she asks Kirk, she's like, you feel all right? And he starts yelling. He's like, none of us, of course I don't feel all right. None of us feel all right. And at this point, I just want to note that I really do like seeing a desperate, out of control Kirk, where he's in a situation where he has like genuine fear and worry. And because he just has no control, like absolutely no control of the situation. And he's just like super desperate. And I think that, this and the scene that follows were just some amazing acting from Shatner, who everybody says like overacts in this series, but I haven't seen that. But like he conveys like worry and desperation very well, I think.
Well, for the most part, throughout most of the episodes, he's been pretty cool under pressure.
Right.
I think it fits because like he's over. I think the overacting here of him, the desperate part, is because of the disease. So I think it works really good.
Yeah. So Miri says that she doesn't want anything bad to happen to Kirk, and so he just kind of leaves her off to the side and goes to Spock and McCoy to tell them that, hey, I have to go find Janice. And Spock is like, well, we also have to find the communicators. And Kirk, he's like, I'm trying, we're trying. So McCoy yells at him, and he's like, well, hey, that's not good enough. And we can't test our theory, without the ship's computers. And so Kirk asks if the red liquid that's in the beaker in front of them is a vaccine. And McCoy's like, that's what we need the computer to tell us. And Spock says that without the communicators, it could be, could just very well be a beaker full of death. Which, I think it was another really good scene for Shatner. It's just that kind of desperation, like, I'm trying, damn it. What else do you want me to do kind of things. And also really good from the guy that plays McCoy as well. And then Spock was just being regular Spock. So Kirk goes to Miri and asks if she, heard any of the conversation. Says, hey, we only have a few hours left. And she's like, well, I don't care. And Kirk explains to her, that her and her friends will get the disease unless they succeed in finding, the cure. And he tells her that, she's becoming a young woman. And, the moment she does, she's going to get the disease. And she doesn't believe him. But he grabs her arm and shows her that she already has a splotch on her arm from the disease. Elsewhere, the kids are playing in some, it looks like a schoolroom, and they're playing a weird game where one of them is a teacher, and I don't really know what the hell is going on in this scene, but it is what it is. And they have Janice tied to a chair, and she asks, hey, what are you going to do with me? And then Miri opens the door, and the leader of the kids invites her in, and she opens the door the rest of the way to reveal that Kirk is in there. And boy, does this just take a weird turn from here. So Kirk walks into the room while the kids are all chanting, and he tries to tell them what's happening, but they just keep chanting and trying to play a game, and they're just like drowning him out. And he tells them that they need their communicators back to talk to the ship, and the kids start chanting blah blah blah. He screams, he yells, he's like, no blah blah blah, which I don't.
And at this point, Kirk is like, I don't want kids.
Yeah, just like what a weird thing to have to act though. He's like, no blah blah blah. So he continues to explain that if they can't talk to the ship, then there's not going to be any games anymore, and everybody's going to die. And one of the kids jumps up from behind Kirk and tries to hit him with a club, but Janice, is like, hey, watch out. And so he's easily able to just take the club away. He continues pleading for the communicators. The kids all just like start moving towards him with weapons. And he's just like, hey, we don't have to do this. We really need those communicators. And then they just start beating the hell out of him with all these like different clubs and sticks and stuff that they have. And at this point, I'm just like, fuck this. Just phaser them. Like put it on stun or, disintegrate. Just shoot these kids. Cause like it's you and your crew or a bunch of 300-year-old kids.
They're literally beating the shit out of you.
Yeah, they're just attacking him. Like, he's been all about his crew the entire time. Like, fuck this, just phaser him.
Yeah, another rant from me, by the way. This whole scene is just terrible. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's weird and stupid. Trying to talk to kids like they're with these kind of speeches is stupid. Like, my gosh, why is this episode so bad?
This scene has the feeling of they just made it up on the fly.
Like it just the episode got progressively just terrible.
Well, I didn't mind this. Honestly, I didn't mind the scene so much because I understood that he was trying to reason with the kids, like try to walk them to. He was trying to walk them to the result, like, hey, this is all going to happen to you. I'm trying to help you.
Right.
I think he was trying to be more reasonable than like the strict parent, like, hey, you're going to do this. You're going to do what you're told.
No, I get your point. I get your point, Dan. My point is, it's just the way he was talking in the speech he was doing. Like maybe because the disease made him talk like that, but you don't talk to kids like that. Like I don't think that's how you get across to them. I don't know, or like it felt.
Should he gone on in there and like smacked him across the back of the head, like, hey, shut up and do what you're told.
Or how's it come across? Like it came across like it's one of those speeches you give, like a president would give to a nation, or something like that, instead of an adult talking to kids.
And my thing is like, he repeated the same thing. Like his argument was just he said the same thing like 3 times in a row, and if they didn't listen the first 2 times, they're probably not going to listen the third. Like it's just he just kept repeating himself. Like they didn't have any more dialogue for him.
And maybe he just didn't understand. Like, and then maybe they didn't understand the words he was using. Like it's just the way he was talking. Like I don't know. I found the whole scene just.
Well, I also think it's probably fair to say, since they've had no interaction with any adults, they really don't understand that, I don't know how to put it, like the difference, how when you talk to your kid, you're not talking to him as a friend, but you're talking to more of
they don't respond to like figure. The authority tone.
Yeah.
But he used that tone on Charlie once and it worked.
But Charlie went through puberty already and had interactions with adults prior to that. Right.
And I think that even if they didn't understand this, they would understand a good phasering. So it's always an option.
That's true. I mean, I didn't hear any of them, say you're not my dad. So
yeah, you're not my real dad.
It was just a weird scene to me. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know why This whole show was a lot of uncomfortable scenes. I felt like that scene was uncomfortable.
Well,
There's
this
so
whole
much.
episode is just uncomfortable.
Yeah, this whole episode, it's really uncomfortable. I just more and more weirdness. I don't know.
Yeah. So he does manage to get away from the crowd, but he's like bleeding from his ear and his mouth and like from his eyebrow. And he tells the leader, hey, it's only a matter of months before you get the disease. And Miri's like, yeah, he's right. So Kirk rips his sleeves to show his arms with the huge splotches all over them, which we really should do like a Kirk ripped uniform count as well as a death count, but I'm not going back. I'm just going to assume it happens in every episode.
Their uniforms are so easily ripped.
Yeah, or maybe he's just super strong.
I mean, that could be too.
Yeah. So he's got the splotches all over his arms. And he's like, hey, that's going to happen to you guys. And he's like, well, what's going to happen to all the younger ones when the older ones, get older and die? And he's like, you have maybe 6 months of food left, and you might even die before that. So he then, he's like, hey, I got a foolie for you. Like, I got a dare for you. And then he goes to the desk and grabs this kid and just chucks him off this desk.
Yeah, he did. He had enough.
Yeah, he just grabs this kid and just throws him off the desk. And I saw dude, that kid did not have a soft landing. And Shatner tried to hold on to him so he wouldn't go all the way down to the floor. But I think that just made it worse. Like, it looked like he ripped that kid's arm out of his socket, but he just grabs him and chucks him. I was like, Jesus, dude.
Well, Kirk might have a concussion, so he's probably not in the best of the mood.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He did just get beat up.
Yeah. He tells the kids to look around. He's like, look at the blood on my face, and, that my blood's on your hands. And he tells them that, hey, it's not the Grups that are doing all the hurting and the yelling, that, it's you guys, basically telling them that, they are the thing that they hate. And that, even though he's a Grup, he just wants to help. So we go back to Spock and McCoy, and Spock goes to check on Kirk. He's like, hey, I need to go see how things are going. And McCoy, as soon as Spock leaves, he's like, screw this. I'm just going to inject myself with this vaccine, whether it works or not. And then he falls down on the table and starts screaming for Spock. He's like, this was a terrible idea. And Spock hears him, and he comes, he and one of the guards who have just been off doing whatever for the last several days. They run back into the room, and they find McCoy laying on the floor. And Spock goes to him and checks him out, and he's like, he's not dead yet. Which, what the hell have those guards been doing this whole time? They've just been playing a real-life version of Fallout.
I have no idea.
He's just out there, building a base, and, he's been out in the wasteland trading and shit.
This was the first time that the extras didn't die, but I haven't seen them. So
yeah, they didn't die because they just haven't been there. They're like, I know how this shit works. We stick around these guys, we die. We go off on our own. We actually might also die.
Well, they weren't even standing by the door to open the door for the captain or anything. They're just, we're just gonna disappear.
Yeah. So at this point, Kirk enters the room, and he's got his communicator, and he's talking to the ship. Says that they only have 3 hours and 10 minutes left. And he sees Spock, and he's like, hey, where's McCoy? I told you to babysit him and don't let him inject himself with nothing. Which he really didn't. But Spock explains that McCoy did inject himself with a vaccine. And, Kirk is looking at McCoy's face. And Spock's like, wow, look, the blemishes are fading. And then they start, just to completely disappear.
Which, that was just not good either, how they did that whole scene.
Terrible CGI, bro. You're right. I thought the same thing. I thought it would be maybe they brushed it off or something, and just terrible CGI. I don't know, the way that was terrible. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, but I mean, how else do you show, at that time period that he's getting better? I mean, I get, it didn't look great.
Open his eyes
from now, but...
and get up and that's normal.
He could have popped up and man, I feel better.
He's like, I feel less angry.
Yeah, he's like, I'm feeling clear now. That worked for me. Yada. Gets up, feels a little better. Then slowly but surely, he goes to wipe the thing off and it falls off or something. Something more clever than this terrible CGI stuff. See, this whole episode, dude.
Not to mention, no vaccine works that quickly. Oh, hey, 5 minutes later, you're good to go.
I think that this whole everything we've seen so far kind of suffers from this same issue, though, where they get so deep into a problem and then they have so little time at the end of the episode to solve it that it has to be a very quick resolution, and it just leads to kind of cheesy that's that stuff like this.
Right.
I think they should have left a little more time.
That's kind of how shows were done back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that it leaves more room, for more stuff in the middle, but they'd have to wrap it up so fast that you just kind of got to do cheesy, weird stuff like this.
Well, I think it'd be neat if they would have done it like all in the next episode. You saw like his face still clearing up from the previous episode, showing that, it's all, I mean, we know it's connected, but there's no continuous like, hey, what happened in the last episode is still affecting us in this episode.
Yeah, they really don't mention the last episodes at all, which is really weird.
Nope.
But Spock quips that he's like, I'll never understand the medical mind, which yeah, I mean, that must be a very logical thing to him, to just grab that syringe and just inject yourself with it. But obviously everything works out, so we're back on the ship, and Janice and Kirk and McCoy are at the captain's chair, and Janice expresses her distaste for leaving the children there with a medical team. And Kirk is like, well, they're 300 years old. They'll be all right. And they contacted the Space Central to send them teachers and advisors. And McCoy is jokingly like, well, and truant officers. Those kids are a handful. So Janice tells Kirk that Miri really loved him. And he's like, well, I don't get involved with older women. He was definitely willing to get involved with a younger one.
Best line of the whole episode.
Yeah. And then they just kind of go off to their next adventure. So I guess one of my questions, I have a few questions at the end of this, is first of all, why not, after you solve this issue, go to that laboratory and continue that research, because they were very clearly onto something. Like, they were close to achieving basically immortality. And yeah, it would be a real shame to just throw all of that away.
Well, actually, here's a better thing. Does it ever say that the kids were going to age normally after they cured them for that particular disease?
No, they never mentioned that. I was curious about that too.
Yeah, so the kids may still be aging super slow.
Yeah.
So they may. So I thought about that. I wasn't sure about that.
Oh man, could you imagine puberty for 500 years?
God. Yeah, I imagine that
no, I want to die.
I wonder if if they did give them the vaccine, would that cure them instantly and they would start aging normally, or would they start aging normally once they hit puberty?
Yeah, see, it's just one of those.
I also got a question. What do you think the crew members are doing on the ship when Captain Spock are all down there? Do you think they're, lighting up doobies and getting drunk while,
Well, you got to remember,
they're captains on, the planet, trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, they were gone for almost a week, and I bet that Riley reinstituted his 2 ice cream for dinner policy, and everybody just partied on in the bowling deck.
Yeah. They had a mutiny, hey, this guy's going to be in charge.
Yeah. I'm sure some people had some experiments and things to do, but yeah, I bet they mostly just took it easy. They went to beach deck, they went to bowling deck, they went to disco deck, and just, had a good time.
At the time of their lives?
Yep. They actually ended up leaving the system, and they went to Wrigley's Pleasure Planet and came back.
We'll be back in 7 days. Don't worry.
Yeah. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, and the other thing about the kids was why leave the kids there? Why wouldn't you take them to, somewhere else where they can, be cared for and stuff?
I was thinking that also, not to mention, you have to assume all other life, at least human-wise, died off on the planet besides that little section right there.
Right, so you've got just a planet of several colonies of kids, most likely.
Yeah, maybe 20 people altogether. You're going to give them a whole entire planet?
Well, I would think that kids are around in every other city, though, right? If all the adults died off.
Yeah, see, that's what my.
Well, see, I think what happened is just that town or city was working on that, aging thing. So only their kids got the benefit from that. I think everyone else died on that planet besides them.
No, but when it says the virus, though, are airborne, because it didn't explain how you got the virus. I'm assuming it was airborne because the crew got it. So I'm assuming
they contracted almost immediately.
So yes, immediately. So I'm assuming it was in the atmosphere, and anybody on the planet got it. So I'm assuming but were there kids? Were there other kids?
The kids should have been carriers.
Well, I would think it'd be airborne, like Paul was saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the kids, they didn't start getting sick until they were around Miri.
Are we sure?
Even though she hadn't entered puberty yet, she still had it in her system.
Yeah, but okay, exactly. So here's what I'm saying. So you're thinking that the kids are the ones that have the disease. That's not how it works. They as soon as they got on the planet, they got infected. It had nothing. They got infected. It wasn't because they met that little girl.
But you would have thought after a couple hundred years that the disease not being able to affect anyone new should have died out. It was basically just waiting around for the adolescence to enter adulthood.
That's actually another very fair point.
Oh, see, okay, I see. So the disease could have died out from everywhere else, but okay.
Yeah, that's actually a really good argument for the kids being the ones that transmute the disease. Because if it's, if it's running through their body and it's working fine, it's not going to like mutate or anything.
Mutate, yeah.
Yeah, it's another one of those things that we needed clarification on that we just didn't get, or we're just overthinking. But yeah, that's a very fair argument, Dan. So I had a few questions, obviously, that I had written down, and here's the other one. What the fuck was the point in the security guys in this entire episode?
I have no idea.
They literally did nothing.
Yeah, they walked around for a little bit.
I mean, they could at least, one of them could have died.
Yeah, like just literally anything. Like something could have happened. And it's another one of those things that makes me feel like this episode was kind of made up on the fly.
After this episode,
well, I was going to say in the beginning of the episode where Spock and the security guards were trying to look for, the noises, and they were like throwing rocks over the building, or they appeared to be rocks. They could have hit one of the security guards on the head, and killed him.
Right, or at the very least, one of the security guards could have been, a little older and could have died from the disease while they were there to kind of, towards the end to, raise the stakes a bit and remind everybody that, hey, this is a serious threat. But no, nothing. So I guess that's going to bring us to our final thoughts section here. So, Paul, I know you gave us a little bit of hint, but how did you feel about this one overall?
Out of 1 out of 10, this was a negative 35. I don't even know. It was that bad to me because I overthink a lot of stuff in life. So it just, all the very small plot holes in this started adding up and adding up and adding up for an episode that I find, I don't know, uncomfortable from the pedophile type, like the child adult type. I just couldn't. It made me feel a little uncomfortable from the way they shot Kirk looking all dreamy at the little girl, from their attitude, the way Kirk manipulated this girl to get the information he wanted. It's just all these little subtle things that nowadays you read into a lot more that made it more uncomfortable. So it might be a 2020 thing, 2020s thing, where things are getting a little uncomfortable here and there. But I found this episode, I don't even know. I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was quickly done. I think it was not smartly thought out. I thought the concept, though, the idea of the disease actually is really cool because, like I said earlier, there's a show called Jericho, and literally it was people got puberty and they end up dying or whatever, a certain age. So it's like, I like that. So I get that idea. It's just the way they did it in this episode particular, just I feel like they wasted all this great idea. The idea of this was great. It just was executed very bad.
It would have been interesting to see what people thought about it when it originally aired.
Right.
If they had the same thoughts we did, or if it's just the age that we live in.
No, they didn't have the thoughts like that at all. They didn't think about that one bit back then. That didn't bother them at all. I bet the whole kid relationship with them, they thought, oh, it's kind of cute because she kind of likes him, and she doesn't realize that they probably thought this stuff was cute. There's no way they think like the way we think nowadays, because people nowadays we see it to the extreme nowadays. That we see it every day. So I don't know. This episode was just, oh my God, it was so bad. What a waste.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it for the most part. Like you said, good idea. They kind of missed the mark on the execution. The one thing I will say though is that their makeup effects for the disease I thought was really well done. Like I love a good practical effect for something like that, and I think that the disease itself looked really good. But yeah, just kind of weird for all the same reasons that you said, and kind of a miss for me. Like it wasn't terrible, it wasn't great. Dan?
I have to agree with what both of you had said for the most part of this episode. I didn't flat out hate it, but I didn't love it. Another one of my questions that I wanted them to answer is, obviously we know there's going to be Earth-like planets out there in the universe, but man, what is the likelihood of coming across one that looks exactly like our planet and has the same history?
Yeah, we never got an explanation for that. Like, we were all hoping it was kind of this mirror or alternate universe planet thing, and it's just kind of another Earth for some reason.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger questions left for me. Like, hey, you guys literally discovered a planet that looks exactly like the planet that you're from, and you don't give a shit about it. In the sense, like, oh, hey, why is this the way it is?
I never thought about the history part because they didn't tell us any history.
Besides that, it resembled 1960s America.
Yeah, that's it. Like, it didn't really tell us. Yeah, it didn't really explain any history at all. So we don't know if the history is the same as ours or similar at all. Because you think about it, it said it resembles 1960s America. It wasn't the same. It would have been different, like if they went to New York City, and it was like New York, and like it was like Twin Towers and things out there or whatever that happened, or something happened in the 60s, and then it stayed the same. This one, there was no reference to history at all. It was just that city with a bunch of bland general things. So we don't even know the history of that.
And then they were able to send out an SOS that resembled our SOS.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I guess.
Just a lot left unexplained.
This episode, man, what a waste of a great idea. That really annoys me so much.
So I do want to say that I did look up some information about this episode here real quick. And following the first screening of Miri on British television in December of 1970, the BBC received a number of complaints regarding the episode's content. And so they actually banned the episode, and it was not played again until the early 1990s, but they never did disclose the complaints that got it banned. So the BBC was like, hey, we're not playing this shit.
Well, I could take a stab at it of why it probably got banned.
Yeah. So I guess every time they ran the entire series through the 70s and 80s, they just skipped this and a few other episodes.
Well, I don't know. I get why. It's not a good episode.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it, unless you guys have anything else.
Nope,
I'm good also.
Okay. So the next episode that we're going to cover is season 1, episode 9, and it's called Dagger of the Mind. And I am very excited about this because in my, limited time on Twitter promoting the podcast and everything, whenever somebody asks like, hey, what are like the quintessential episodes for Star Trek that you would show somebody who's never seen Star Trek, this one is basically always on that list, and it's considered like a must watch for the entire franchise. So I'm very excited to to watch. Yeah, I'm really excited to see, why the fan base loves this one so much.
I mean, I like the title already.
Yeah. After this episode, they can't go nowhere but up. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe other people are watching the same order we have, and they'd be like, "Oh, this episode's so amazing." It was like the last episode was terrible, so of course
the last one sucks so bad.
Yeah, the last one sucks so bad. This one's gonna be amazing. Like,
yeah. So if you guys want to discuss Star Trek, tell us we're doing great. Tell us we're doing terrible. You can get a hold of us on Twitter at WWST_podcast. You could email us at wwstpod@gmail.com. And as always, you can listen to this, anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, and that does include YouTube. But it's just audio only on there, no video. But again, let us know. Rate it, comment if you liked it. If you don't like the podcast, either way, thanks for listening, and we'll catch everybody next time.
Peace.
Later.